Does he still have the skill set in him?
Well, I don't know about that, Jenna. I think it's a little bit curious, the timing of the Baltimore Ravens announcing the signing with Ozzie Newsome and John Harbaugh being deposed in the Colin Kaepernick collusion grievance that he filed. But
the day before, they're going to have to be deposed. They signed RG3. Go ahead. I just want
you're right.
Know
no, they didn't even sign him yet. They just announced that they're going to sign him. They're going to sign him next week.
Had a good workout last week.
Yeah, they're going to sign him next week.
Yes.
We just want everybody to know that. But when you start talking about RG3's skill set, I don't know that he's evolved enough as a passer to be able to have success. And if he can't win from the pocket, if he can't win without relying on his legs the way that he has in the past, then I have a hard time that he's going to stay healthy. If he's not going to be available, I don't know how effective he's going to be moving forward, even as a backup option. Right. Because if you're having to turn to your backup quarterback, that means your starting quarterback is knocked out of the game. So if you're in that situation as a team and you don't have a reliable backup in terms of a guy that you know is going to be available and can take the hits and can go through an NFL regular season, then what good is he as a backup option?
I believe he's a backup quarterback. I believe the question should be, is he good enough or have the skill enough to be a backup quarterback? Because that's what he is. It's not as if we're asking him to start 6 games for Baltimore. That's if we start 8 games. Is he good enough to be a backup? And if I'm looking at backup quarterbacks, one of the things I would like to have in a backup quarterback is a guy who has some type of experience. Now, y'all might consider that to be bad experience, but it is experience, starting experience of playing in the NFL. There's another thing I'd like to have in my backup quarterback. It'd be like some type of talent. RG3 does have some type of talent. He does have talent to be able to throw the ball. He does have to evolve into a pocket passer, but that only comes with time. When you run a 4.3 and you've been the fastest man on the field, even after your rookie year, he was the fastest man on any football field that he's ever been on. It's hard to change from that. That only comes with time. His confidence got totally destroyed. He made some bad football decisions, him and his dad, as far as the style of play that he wanted to, the type of pressure that he put on Mike Shanahan there in Washington, and the turmoil that he created in that locker room. But is he still good enough to be a backup quarterback in this league? Yes. Are there 100 quarterbacks better than RG3? No, but you're never going to know that if you don't give them time. I just believe in NFL teams, especially in quarterbacks, because it takes a lot longer for the cookies to get done. You can sit in the NFL locker room for years, and a quarterback, he might finally get it. I saw Rich Gannon. Didn't play early in his career. Later in his career, he went on to be offensive MVP there in Oakland with John Gruden. So I believe it can happen. Like, the quarterback is not the position like other positions. I believe it can be cultivated. I believe it can be developed, that one time he could come into a game and your starter gets hurt. He might be able to replace him for 3 or 4 games. I do believe he's worth the 1-year investment because of talent, because of he spent time starting, and because he's got some, talent needs to be cultivated. Like, every dancer needs a stage. And I just believe at some point you surrender what you know as far as being an athlete. You surrender to the coaching and become a pocket passer. I believe he can get good enough to be able to do that.
Listen, I've said multiple times on this show that I don't think black quarterbacks get a fair shake as backups. We got a lot of bad white quarterbacks sitting on benches. And it feels to me like if you're a black quarterback, even in 2018, if you're not good enough to be a starter, it's very hard for you to get a job as a backup. I feel like they're playing by a different standard. And so I understand that. I think people probably would expect me to be a fan of the RG3 signing because I'm also a better on talent. As Cece was talking about talent, one of the reasons I'll deal with all the Odell stuff. Give me all the talent in the world. RG3 to me, though, checks a bunch of boxes that are not boxes I want checked for my backup quarterback. One is the injury part of it. Because if Joe Flacco goes down, at the very least, I want to know the guy who has been my backup is going, even if he's not great, is going to be able to go out there and give me a month of football if I need him to. RG3 is as injury-prone as any quarterback I've seen in the last decade. So that's one box. Another box is I don't want my backup quarterback to be a divisive force in my locker room. Now, I think that was an unfair knock on Cap. I don't think he was divisive in the locker room. Might have been divisive amongst the fans. Might have been divisive amongst the owners.
Neither one of them were liked in the locker room. The real truth, RG3 was not liked in the locker room, and Cap was not liked before the protest in the locker room.
Okay, well, maybe before the protest in the locker room, but nobody was keeping him out of the league before the protest. Post-protest, he won whatever the award is for voted on by his teammates.
Yeah, that don't mean the teammate that we like. That means teammate that showed the most courage. Okay. And it did take courage.
CC's right. CC's right on that front about the cap thing.
We can get into the cap thing, but let me just finish this real quick. I don't, and whether RG3 it's fair or not, that guys seem to, at each stop he's been at, not love him in the locker room. That coaches at his first stop in particular haven't loved him and his father. That is to me a real thing. And so there are RG3. If I were a Ravens fan, this is not the guy I would want as my backup quarterback. Now, I understand the idea of if you want to say we have no hope as a starting quarterback and we just are going to roll the dice that he's not going to get hurt, we're going to go talent over a McCown brother, talent over one of these guys, fine, I suppose. But for those reasons, I understood why RG3 was out of football last year.
The Browns last week traded Cody Kessler. Now, there's a market for him. There's a market for RG3. Now, I wouldn't trade a warm six-pack for Cody Kessler, all right? And there's a bunch of bad quarterbacks, all right? So, like, let's just spread it around, all right? I'll take his experience, which none of them other guys have.
Yes.
And Josh McCown, y'all tell me when he was good. Forget about bad. Forget about getting hurt. When was he any good?
I'm with you. And he just signed another contract with the Jets.
Right, but
ain't nobody on TV telling him he shouldn't have no job.
Go ahead. No, I think they're separate categories to a degree. I think there's separate categories from what you're asking out of Josh McCown and what you're asking out of RG3. And I think Josh McCown, you saw it when he got injured last year, the effect that it had on what the players were saying about him as far as what a rallying force he is in the locker room. Again, I'm not out here advocating for Josh McCown. Mm-hmm. I just don't think RG3 is not the guy that I think has gotten an unfair shake in this league. I think there's plenty of guys that have. I don't think RG3 is one of those guys.
Well, there's a certain amount of reality, and I never won a Super Bowl. So I've been chasing a lot of teams, chasing Jerry Rice, chasing the Cowboys, chasing Green Bay. In Philadelphia, was chasing the Giants. They won. Chasing Washington Redskins with Joe Gibbs. They won. So I feel like I have a great perspective on analyzing where a team is and actually where my team was. And, man, I always made a mistake, man, Chris. I always thought we was a lot closer to them than we really were. It was kind of like that little sign in your mirror. Said objects in the mirror.
Closer than they appear.
They're closer than they appear. Like, they are not that close to Philadelphia. They were no more close than we were to Dallas Cowboys or the San Francisco 49ers. Only time we got close to them is when we went out and got Moss. That's when we got closer. And that's when I knew, man, it wasn't the difference between how far we behind them. It's, man, right now we can play with anyone. And they did that a couple of years ago with their draft. That's how they got their quarterback, and that's how they got Zeke. What have they done since then? The offensive line, in the last 2 years, they haven't gotten better. Right. We could say that last season, as that unit, that was the worst season that they've had. They couldn't add anyone in free agency this offseason. So, no, what Philadelphia has done, adding to that, what Howie Roseman has done, adding these little pieces, Mike Wallace, Chris Long coming back another year, Bennett trading him from Seattle. I mean, how would you like to have maybe a 7th or 8th defensive lineman be, Haloti Ngata?
How about that?
Yeah.
What about that? I mean, a silent assassin in your locker room.
Yep.
Like, so, Jerry, I've been doing this a while. Hey, Jerry, you're a lot further away from them than it actually really appears, and you need to be more concerned about some of them other teams in the NFC, too, just besides the Eagles.
Yeah, the New Orleans Saints and the Minnesota Vikings, and we see the Los Angeles Rams are staffing up as well.
And I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers is going to play this year.
Pretty sure he's going to be back. Chip on his shoulder, literally, I guess. But when you start looking at the two teams, the Cowboys and the Eagles, I think the separation is clearly defined in the caliber of defense that they're bringing to the table. I mean, you can make an argument for the skill position groups. You can make an argument at the offensive line positions. I think both of those could be considered washes. But when you look defensively at what the Philadelphia Eagles are bringing to the table, their front seven is about as good as anybody in football. And the depth that they have up front. See, when it comes to playing good defense, you have to have good depth up front. And when you have the glut of pass rushers that they do, add Michael Bennett to a group that has Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and all of those guys, Derek Barnett, the rookie that we saw last year, they're going to be a tough out for anybody. The Dallas Cowboys.
Question for you, Chris. Sorry to cut you off, but I think it's important because I never won. After you won that championship, did that make y'all better as a team? Like, how does that transfer into what you can do moving on. Because now you know you're a winner compared to, I think we're pretty good.
Exactly. It's the difference in psychology, right? We think we can versus we know we can. We've done it before. Having that experience makes a difference. But that being said, it's hard to eat when you're full. So we'll see if there's a Super Bowl hangover with the Philadelphia Eagles. Can Doug Peterson's coaching staff get these guys ready to go again because you have a condensed offseason? But back to the comparisons with the defense and the defensive lines, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, it's like they playing spades with pass rushers. They got two in the possible. Like they got David Irvin, they got DeMarcus Lawrence, and a bunch of other guys that maybe sometimes
when they moved Brandon Graham inside in the Super Bowl,
that was the difference in the game.
Yes.
That was the difference in the game. The Cowboys, outside of DeMarcus Lawrence, don't have somebody that can close out games that way. Nobody on third down, nobody in the 2-minute situations, nobody in end-of-game situations. Those are the critical phases that you have to be good defensively, especially if you're a team built like the Dallas Cowboys.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.